Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Software Process and Project Management. This is Rajni from St. Peter's Engineering College, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. So in today's session, we are going to discuss the elaboration, the construction and the transition, which are the life cycle phases of our software development. So in today's session, we are going to see what are the primary objectives of these three phases, and in order to cope up with that objectives, what are the essential activities we need to do, and after completion of essential activities, how they are going to evaluate these objectives, or how they are going to evaluate these activities. So without any delay, let's get into the topic. So coming to the first one, it is your elaboration phase. The elaboration phase, it is the most important phase of the four phases. So the elaboration phase, it must ensure that the architecture, the requirements and the plans are stable enough and the risk sufficiently mitigated that the cost and the schedule for the completion of the development can be predicted within an acceptable range. So this is the reason why it is an important phase. Now, the main goal of this elaboration phase is to build an executable architecture prototype. And during the development of an architecture, right, one or more iterations are made in order, depending on the scope of our project, depending on the size of project and the risk and the novelty of the project. Now, for example, if my project is very simple, okay, it is a simple web application, so I can complete it with one or two iterations. Or if my project is a gaming application, or it is some of the bank application, right? Now for that one, I need to proceed in more than two or more iterations. So always based on the risk, based on the size and your scope of our project, the iterations will be changing. Now let us see what are the primary objectives of our elaboration phase. So the first objective, it is that we have to baseline the architecture as rapidly as practical. This is because in this objective we are going to establish a configuration, manage the snapshots in which all the changes are rationalized, tracked and maintained. And coming to the second primary objective, we have to baseline the vision. So what is the main goal of my project? So what is the need? Am I developing that particular project? So we have to baseline the vision of our project. And coming to the third primary objective, it is we have to plan for the construction. So whatever the construction phase we have to go into, it purely depends upon our elaboration phase. So in the elaboration phase itself, we have to provide a high fidelity plan for the construction phase. Now if I fail in providing a proper plan, then my construction phase can not succeed. And coming to the fourth primary objective, it is that we have to demonstrate the architecture with full support. Now we have to see whether am I doing what am I doing the architecture based on the reasonable cost. So when you are doing the elaboration phase, or when we are baselining the architecture, we have to concentrate on the cost. Okay, based on the cost only we have to provide the architecture model. And at the same time, the scheduling also, we have to keep note of the schedule time, and based on that we have to provide the architecture. That is your elaboration phase. Now in order to meet these primary objectives, so what all the activities we have to do, we will be seeing now. So the first thing is that we have to elaborate the vision. So already we said that, so what is the main motto of my project? So whether you have that, you should have that particular vision. Okay, you should have a vision of that particular project. Now then that vision we have to elaborate that. So whatever my project is there, I have to establish a use cases. So if use cases are available, right, it is easily for everyone to understand. So based on the use cases, I will get to know who are the actors and what are the actions I have to perform. Based on that, I can I can do my construction. So this activity involves establishing a high fidelity understanding of critical use cases that drive our architecture or planning decisions. And the next essential activity we have to do is that we have to elaborate the processes and infrastructure. Now, simply I give the architecture, it's not enough, right? So I have to elaborate the architecture. Like if I'm giving a particular architecture, now if I'm using a client server architecture, or if I'm using an entire architecture, now for that one, what I need is I need a tool of a database, right? And for a database is needed, and there is a server I need, there is a processor I need. Like you have to give for this how much resources are needed. For based on the application, what are my resources, you have to see what are the resources I will have to use, what are the tools I have to use. So you have to concentrate on that one. So the construction process, the tools, and the process automation support, and the intermediate milestones. And we have to give the evaluation criteria should also be established. And coming to the next essential activity, it is we have to elaborate the architecture and the selecting components. So in this what we are going to do is that we are going to elaborate the components which are needed for evaluation, and we have to do whether I have to buy that particular components or whether I have to make we have to make decisions, and which are used to understand the construction phase cost also. So whenever you are doing the elaboration phase, we are saying that we have to keep an eye on the cost. So that cost should also involve your construction cost, and it should also involve the schedule. So whenever you are doing your architecture, you have to keep these two in mind. One is the cost and another one is the schedule. And coming to the primary evaluation criteria. So once I have done my architecture baseline, okay, I have provided an architecture baseline, then how I am going to evaluate that one. So we have to see whether my vision is stable. Okay, so whatever the main motto of my project is there, it should be stable, it should not change. And you have to see whether your architecture is stable. Now, based on the requirements, whether it is a correct architecture baseline or not, we have to concentrate on it. And then what we need to do is that we have to check whether the executable demonstration, so whatever we are doing, any elements of risk are there or not, we have to check in the elaboration phase itself. So based on the architecture, will my construction phase will face any problems or not, we have to check. So all the executable demonstrations we have to show along with the risk elements also, so that whenever the risk the coding people or the developers, they will have an idea of what all the risks can come during the construction phase. Then they will be checking whether the construction plan which we have made is sufficient and it is backed up with a basis of estimate. And all the stakeholders should agree the current vision and whether they can meet with the whatever the current plan we have made based on the architecture. And the next evaluation criteria they are going to do is that whether all the resources expenditures are meeting or coping up with whatever the planned expenditures we are done. So whether my planned expenditures are same as my actual resource expenditure. So they will be concentrating on the cost They will be concentrating on the vision and whether my plan is with a vision and whether my plan is matching or not, or whether I have to do any other changes. And they will be seeing that your vision and the architecture would be stable. Coming to the next phase of our life cycle, it is a construction phase. So the main aim of my construction phase is that to represent a production process in which the managing resources are placed, and we are going to control the optimization operations to optimize the cost, schedules and the quality. So many projects are very large in order to make a parallel construction increments. Now this parallel activities, what happens is that due to this, they accelerate the availability of deployable releases. Now they can also increase the complexity of the resource management and the synchronization of workflows and teams. So this is one of the critical qualities of any architecture. So in the architecture phase itself, what we have to do is that we have to plan in such a way that it is very easy for the construction. So if my project is a huge one, or it has a number of modules, then you have to construct in, you have to develop an architecture such that it portrays the integration of your modules. So this one we have to do it in the elaboration phase itself. Okay, so the reason that the balanced development of architecture and the plan is stressed during the elaboration phase. So in order to make my construction phase success, we have to concentrate on our elaboration phase. So in simple, we can give the main goal of our construction phase is to integrate the component and application features. And let us see what are the primary objectives of our construction phase. The main objective of our construction phase is to minimize the development cost. So how they are going to develop the cost is by optimizing the resources and by avoiding the unnecessary scrap and the rework. And next primary objective it is that they have to achieve the adequate quality as rapidly as practical. And then once a quality product has been done, then what they have to do is that they have to check whether they have achieved the useful version or not. So how I can come to know whether it is a useful version or not is that you're going to do your alpha testing, you're going to do your beta testing, and you will be doing some test releases. So these are the primary objectives of your construction phase. So in order to achieve these objectives, what are the essential activities we need to make is that we have to concentrate on the resource management, and we have to concentrate on the control management and the process optimizations. And the next essential activity we have to do is that we have to complete the component development, and we have to do the testing against the evaluation criteria. So once my component is developed or my product is developed, so what I have to do is that I have to go for the testing. So in how many ways I can test the product, that many errors I can see if any deficiency is there in the project. So that's the reason why we have to perform your beta, alpha and test releases. And the next essential activities they are going to do is that they will be assessing the product release. They will be assessing the product release against the acceptance criteria of vision. So how they are going to assess the project is that whatever the requirements I have gathered, whether all the requirements are portrayed, whether all the requirements are being answered in this particular project or not. So they are going to concentrate in that manner. And coming to the primary evaluation criteria. So how they are going to evaluate your construction phase is that whether my product baseline mature, it is enough to be deployed in the user community. So we said that my project is done in a construction phase. Now they will be seeing that whether I can release my product into the market or not, or whether I can hand over the into the project into the hands of the customer or not. So they will be evaluating, or if I want to do any changes, they will be doing that. And the next thing is that, so they will be concentrating on the existing defects. Okay, so at the same time they will be concentrating whether whatever the project I am releasing in the market, then it should not provide any disturbance to my next release. So the basic general prototype of a product will be released into the market. So if my product gets clicked, then I will be looking into the next release. And the next evaluation criteria, they're going to concentrate on whether my product baseline is stable to deploy in the user community. Now, for example, I have developed the work product and I have given that into the market. Okay, I have given that particular product into the market. Now, for example, if you take some bank application, for example, if I take some bank application, so I have that bank app has been released into the market. Now then what happens is that after some times I want to make a advancement to that bank application. So at that time what you have to do, only additional changes what you want to do, you're going to give that additional features into your bank app and you're going to release into the market. Now we have to see that if I want to add that additional features into the bank application, it should not change my old bank. So whatever the previous version is there, we should not change it completely, because the users are always the users got used to it for a long time. Now again, if I release a new version which is very different from my old version, so it is very difficult for the users to get addicted to it and they won't get satisfied. So this is a scenario. So you have to check whether whatever the release you're making, whatever the new release you're making, it should not affect your old version. It should increase the capability of your version, but it should not decrease the capability of our version. And we have to check, are the stakeholders ready for the transition to the user community? And the next evaluation criteria they are going to see is that the same thing, the actual resource expenditures what I have done are meeting with my planned acceptable expenditures. Now they have only estimated the cost, right? Now here construction phase is done. Now what I have estimated expenditure, what now for example I might have estimated some 5 lakh of rupees in the construction phase, but for me it took 7 lakhs. Now what is the difference? Now where I have gone wrong in estimating this cost? Now in which for which module it took huge amount. Okay, so whether I have missed any I have missed any estimation cost, or you are going to check so that it will be useful in the next project estimation. So they won't do the same mistake for the next project. So they will be taking this as a baseline for their next project. So this is our construction phase. Now coming to the last phase of our life cycle phases, that is your transition phase. Now the transition phase is the where we are going to deploy the projects to our customers. Now we are making our work model into a work product. So the transition phase is entered when a baseline is mature enough to deploy in the end user domain. For this, what we need to do is that we need a usable subset of systems that have been achieved with the acceptable quality levels, and along with that we have to provide a user documentation so that our transition to the users will provide a positive results. Now this phase could involve other activities, such as what all the activities will be happening in the transition phase are, we are going to do a beta testing, okay, to validate the new system against user expectations. So in the construction phase, we will be doing a beta testing. So what beta, there we are going to choose only a few people, okay, few people, either either 4 or 5 people, we are going to use them in order to beta testing. Now what here we have to, we will be deploying the project to the customer or the end users. Now the end users will be working on that for the first time. So it is like your beta testing. So to validate whether whatever the work product is there, whether the users are getting satisfied with it or not. And along with the beta testing, what they are going to do is that they are going to perform a parallel relative operations to the legacy system. So whatever the old version is there, and old version, and along with that they are going to see the new version. So in order to replace your old version with the new versions, what all the things I have to do, they will be concentrating on that. And if any databases I have to change, now I am from version 1 to the version 2, I'm doing it. So now there is a need for, in order to do the conversions in the database. So in not all the project it happens, for for the few projects there will be a conversion of operational databases. So they are going to add some of the add some of the data dictionaries into that particular product, and then they will be training the users and the maintainers. So once they have deployed the project to the customers, now what they will be doing, a set of people who worked on the product, they will train the users how to use the product. Okay, so what all the modules are there in the product, like how I have to, if any error occurs or if any issue occurs in your product, how you're going to maintain. So all the time the developers, they won't be sitting with us, right? So once they deploy the project for 1 month of time or for 2 months of time, they will be rectifying our errors, or they will be helping in us maintaining the project. So what they will be doing, they will be training us, how to use the product and how to maintain our product. So the transition phase ends when the deployment baseline has achieved the complete vision. So it also concentrates on reacting to the user feedback. So this transition phase, uh, it also embedded with the user feedback. Now here what happens, whatever the feedback we are taking, that should be confined to how to tune your project, how I have to configure my project, or how I have to install the project, and the usability issues. Now once you have deployed, the user want the changes, which needs from the scratch, I need to do the work. Now I have to change the whole complete model. It's not possible, right? So the user will be giving the feedback, please change this particular module 1. So in order to change that module again, it takes 1 month of time or 2 months of time, right? So that is not the thing. So only the feedback you have to concentrate on, how to should install the project, and how any usability issues are there, you have to solve that usability issues. And coming to the primary objective, the primary objectives of our transition phase are that we have to achieve a self-supportability. So we have to help the users in order to self-support their product. So whatever they are working on the product, or whatever the product they want to use, so they should get proficient in that one. And next one, we have to achieve the stakeholder concurrence, that deployment baselines are complete and consistent with the evaluation criteria of the vision. And the final primary objective is that achieving the final product baseline as rapidly, as cost effectively, as practical. So these are the primary objectives. So in order to achieve those primary objectives, what we have to do? We have to first make the synchronization and integration of construction increments into a consistent deployment baselines. And deployment specific engineering is needed. So what they will be doing in the deployment specific engineering is that if any cutovers are there, they will be concentrating on that. Commercial packing, and the production, the sales rollout kit development, and the field personnel training. So these are all the activities which comes under your deployment specific engineering. And coming to the next one, it is they are going to assess the deployment baseline against the complete vision and acceptance criteria in the requirements set. So these are the essential activities of our transition phase. So in order, so how we are going to is, so they have to evaluate their essential activities what we have done. So the first evaluation criteria is that is the user satisfied. So how we are they are going to check whether the user has satisfied or not. So how we are going to get is that, so they will be taking a feedback from the users, and we have deployed the project, so there is no problem with our schedule project delivery, right? So already we have delivered the project, so there is no scheduling of time now. So one thing they are going to concentrate is that the expenditure cost. So what I have estimated the expenditure for all the phases, and what actual expenditure I have invested. So they are going to see in the transition phase at the end. So from the scratch to the transition phase, what all the expenditures are happened and what I have estimated. So they are going to cross check the expenditures. So these are the evaluation criteria of our transition phase. So in today's session, we have seen what is an elaboration phase, what is the construction phase, and what is the transition phase in detail. That's all for today. Thank you.